Oh, that was short, wasn't it? Okay.
It's perfect.
I will walk with. Ik zit hier met Colson Whitehead, de schrijver van de ondergrondse spoorweg en de jongens van Nickel. Ik ga nu even over naar het Engels. Welcome, Colson.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Very glad that you are here. Was there pressure while writing the Nickel Boys?
Yeah, I mean, it's always hard. You know, it's not an easy job. If it was easy, it wouldn't be fun or interesting.
Yeah.
So whether, you know, things go well with one book or things go poorly, it's never easier or harder. You just have to start the next book.
Okay.
And so, you know, folks might have expectations about what I should do or follow up, but those are their expectations, not mine.
And this book, Jongens van Nickel, is based on a true story, on two facts. Did you do a lot of research?
Yeah, it's based on a reform school in America in the that operated from 1900 to 2011. A reform school for boys with a lot of abuse, physical, sexual. Some kids ended up killed, and so when the school closed, there's a lot of newspaper articles about it, journalism, investigative reports. There are memoirs from former students. There are survivor websites where former students at the school tell their stories, and also a lot of photo archives from over the years. So I describe a Christmas pageant that they have every year, and if you go to newspaper archives, you can find pictures of the trains and the Santas and all that stuff. And you know, for me as a writer, that's all, you know, it all feeds the work.
And when did you hear first about the story?
The school closed in 2011, and in 2014 they were excavating the site so they could sell the land, and found 55 unmarked graves. Former students. Some had died from influenza, and then some of them had like gunshot pellets in their skeletons. And that's when the sort of stories of a lot of the abuse over the decades started coming out. And I wondered what kind of story I could get out of writing about the black side of campus where the black students lived. And if you're a young black person in '63, you're acquainted with Martin Luther King and the advances of the civil rights movement. So I decided to have my first main character, Elwood, you know, see himself as part of this generation that's changing the social order. And then someone who's idealistic and hopeful calls out for an opposite, and that's Turner, who doesn't believe that people change, doesn't believe that systems change, and thinks that the best you can do is sort of get to the end of the day without too many bad things happening to you. And so they complement each other and sort of call out for each other in terms of the philosophical points of view in the book.
And do you feel more connected with Elwood or Turner?
Like everyone else, I have my Elwood days and my Turner days. So.
Okay, it depends on the day.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. You traveled around the world. Are you tired? Or?
I'm pretty tired. You know, before Underground Railroad, I was published here in the Netherlands and in France and Italy and Germany. And the Underground Railroad brought me new readership in China, in Thailand, Macedonia, and more places in Eastern Europe. And so I did a lot of travel, meeting my new publishers, but now, you know, having met some folks once and visited this or that country once, I don't necessarily have to do it again, and I can go to places where I like, where people sort of understand the work, and I have nice folks like the people at Atlas Contact, who I've worked with for many years, and I get to hang out and see them again. So less travel, but I'm going to places that have responded to Underground and Nickel Boys. Yeah.
And can you describe your writing process?
I do a lot of outlining before I start. You know, I have to know the beginning and the end. The middle could be fuzzy, but I definitely have to know what the story's about and the major moments before I start. I write it when I'm working on something. I write, 4 or 5 hours a day, like 10:30 to 3:30, and
that's a lot.
a couple days a week. Is it a lot? It's not 8
I
hours.
think, yeah.
It's not 8 hours.
Okay.
But and my goal is to do 8 pages a week, and it could be Monday and Tuesday, and then Wednesday I have a doctor's appointment, or my kid is sick, and then I catch up on Saturday or Friday. But 8 pages, that's 30 a month, and after 9 months of that, you have 300 pages, and that's like a book. So if I can keep that pace up, I'm making a headway into the large page count that is a novel. With Nickel Boys, I wrote most of it in hotel rooms and on trains and on planes. It's hard to work on the road, but if I didn't do it, the work doesn't get done. So it's either wait 3 years or start working under less than ideal conditions, and so I learned how to do that. Yeah.
Okay. And you finished this book. Are you now thinking about another book, or?
Yeah, I'm working on another book. It's a crime novel set in Harlem in the '60s, and I'm a third of the way through, hoping to be done next summer. So it's very different from the last 2 books, and is not as bleak in terms of human behavior. So that's a nice change.
Okay, good combined. Well, I'm very curious about your new book, and I really love both books and the Nickel Boys especially. So thank you.
No, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah.